humor and serious times, so I think we have an obligation to cover both sides of that. Kristen, I wanted to just maybe use as a jumping off point for you an announcement about a current project. I think just a week ago, we found out that you would be playing the role of Susan Sontag in a film by Kristen Johnson. It sounds like quite an unconventional film. I'm not even sure if the word biopic is going to apply to it necessarily, but you played quite a few real-life figures, iconic figures. Gene Seberg, Princess Diana, going further back, Joan Jett, and now Susan Sontag. I'm just wondering if you could speak to the appeal or the challenge of playing these figures who already exist, you know, in the public consciousness, and whether that's a fundamentally different process than maybe crafting a character from the ground up as you do in other films.
I think that most of the real life women that I've played have been predominantly known through images and sort of in a more singular way through their image, versus any type of self-designated unschooling that they've allowed other people to be privy to. I mean, there's a certain amount of, I could get into each one, but I think there's a certain amount of like self-defining through art or writing or music or connecting with other people that obviously is sort of undeniably available if you consume multiple images, but primarily people are pretty convinced by an image that it is because it was captured in one moment and it's in color or black and white and defined in celluloid, like it's like this, something comes across like it's like a fact. So like if you play a real character, somebody could do a side by side and go, well, I saw her here and you didn't look like her here. There's really never any possible way to get. We all have a different set of eyeballs. We all have a different way of viewing every picture, every capture of a famous person. And so, like, I mean, I guess if the actual question was like, how do you approach like a real person versus not a real person? I've never done anything like, I've never done any of these biopics in order to tell anyone's whole story. I can only look at someone from my perspective and acknowledge that a picture is subjective, even if it, you know, even if it's like a historical document. I think it's like really, whatever, if you've ever read any Susan Sontag anything, you realize that there's sort of danger of not understanding context and knowing that a picture doesn't really mean much unless you like understand why you interpret the caption the way that you interpret it. And I've never done it. I've never been photographed, and I've never been photographed as me or as another character without a caption. So I think like the script matters. I think sort of knowing that like if you lean in towards another person for any given reason, it's going to be unpacked by every member of every audience differently. And I never want to prescribe is what I'm saying. I guess what I'm talking about is there's no amount of research that I could ever do that makes me an authority over you. We all look at the same picture and we all bring our own bodies and our own lives to that picture. And even just talking about movies on the jury recently, we all just have such, you know, it's not about good or bad. It's sort of just impossible to not see things through like your own very specific lens. And so I realized when I play a part that not, even if they're a real person and you can probably cross-reference my work and my research and whether or not I did a good impression, it's all bullshit because we all just see things differently. And it's definitely like the work of a good filmmaker to kind of reconcile all of that and shove it into something that feels somewhat concise but still singular in terms of what they see and not what they think other people see, but just sort of like sharing their own perspective, whatever. So I think, yeah, there's not like a huge difference between playing somebody who existed before you or exists on a page in someone's imagination, because I think we all exist in each other's imaginations. Yeah, not a huge difference.
I am curious, just as a follow-up, of how someone like Sontag fits into, considering, I think it's very accurate for you to say that these are women we know primarily through images of them, but I think with Sontag there's also the sense that she was a great thinker about images and how images, mean, like what they mean and how we perceive them. So I'm wondering if, and also she's somebody we know through words, which is also possibly tricky for cinema, so I'm wondering if this seems like a slightly different person to approach a slightly, different type of project. I don't know if you want to speak about it. I know the project is literally underway right now.
That's the thing, it's kind of fucked up that we're even talking about this right now, but, we would be really remiss if we ever attempted to even touch the idea of making a story or making a film about her that wasn't something that folded in on itself 50 times and was unreconcilable. I think, I've been talking to Kristen about the ideas that we're going to try and shove into this movie, and there's no way, it would be so didactic and so kind of like false to try and describe it. I think if you actually, I think to show it is the way to put your finger on it. Yeah, images are like helpful, dangerous, all of it. Really, like I would love to. I know that like Regarding the Pain of Others is a bit of a sequel to On Photography, but I would really love follow-up. I would love the third installment of the sequel. I would love to see her Instagram. I would love to see. She would have one, I think, too. Yeah, it's really, it's scary to think that we have this sort of outside perspective of ourselves that has never existed other than in the last, 15 years. Like, even if we've seen each other in a few photographs in the 90s, that's really barely anything compared to what we're living with right now. So yeah, you can read an article and without the picture it doesn't impact you because nobody fucking reads. And then if you look at the picture and you don't read the article, it means a completely different thing, and whether or not somebody has the right intention behind a picture, if you've read any of this shit, most historical photographs that are the most moving and the most sort of like, the biggest call to arms, they're all staged. They're not fucking real. And so it doesn't really matter what's real. It's just sort of always understanding that a picture is it's not black and white. You know what I mean? It's really easy to just look at an image and go, okay, yes, of course, somebody was standing there and it happened, but they chose where they're standing. Maybe they kicked a little dirt up into the air before they took the picture. All of that is really important to take into consideration, and especially somebody who's so completely known as this image, like Susan with her gray streak and all of it. There's this robotic, there's this you can talk to her, there's this, what am I trying to,
Chatbot.
Yeah, there's a chatbot of her, and we're all really scared of it. But again, I'm is there any way to actually consolidate a person's, I understand you can run the analytics on every photo she's taken, everything she's ever said and all of her writing, whatever, but it still will just be some sort of video game version of her that will never live and breathe or bleed all over anyone. She'll never actually embarrass you because she's not there to look at you. I don't know, I guess your question was a little bit vague and so was my answer, but
what's your favorite Sontag piece of writing?
her notebooks.
Okay.
Yeah. On photography and Regarding the Pain of Others as well, considering I haven't photographed so often, it was kind of confronting people to read those books. I think brilliant, but I think, it's really for someone so dauntingly intimidating as a thought provoker and a thought creator, reading the sort of delicacy of that mind and how tenuous that landscape is affirming and beautiful and really easy to empathize with. And her other writing is not.
Just one last one for you. What can you tell us about your the feature film that you are directing or have directed? What stage are you at with the Technology of Water?
We're going to shoot the movie this year. I've been writing it for a long time, for 4 or 5 years. And yeah, we're cast. I mean, I think Imogen Poots is going to play Lydia. And it's weird. It's like not all novels, not all memoirs need to be movies. This one, you could really very easily argue that there's no point in making it because it lives on the page in a really sort of indelible way. But it's the most confrontingly, starkly physical thing I've ever read, and it has validated my body in a way that I haven't had a bit of literature do for me. And so I want to see someone live it and breathe it, even if it's not good. I want to see someone get up and fucking do it so badly. And if you've ever spent any time with Lydia, I think the most helpful thing about the book and like the most interesting thing about the book is that it feels like if you've ever opened your mouth and found nothing came out, or if you've ever sort of felt like an inclination towards something but didn't know how to verbalize it, this book, and hopefully the movie doesn't have to do the exact same thing, but it can encourage someone to reach down your own throat and pull it out, because you live primarily in a world that is designed to shut you up. And I feel like it's kind of the most vital thing that I can speak to now as somebody who's allowed to try, because it helped me try, even though maybe I don't put my finger on anything, but if I read this one thing and I went, oh fuck, this thing told me like you should give it a shot, I would like to sort of try and transcribe that for other people.
Thank you to all of you. I'm going to just start to pose questions to the group. Please feel free to just jump in. Okay, we're not allowed to talk about the films in the competition, just as everybody knows this. Reminding Radu specifically. But one role of film festivals, and certainly a festival like the Berlinale, I think is the act of convening, of bringing together films, filmmakers, audiences, but also bringing together different ideas of cinema, different types of cinema. That's reflected in the program.